I want you to close your eyes for a second.
Yep.
Imagine you are standing in the middle of a city. It's twilight.
Mm-hmm.
The architecture is breathtaking. We're talking that romantic Belle Époque aesthetic. Think Paris in the late 1800s.
Absolutely. You can almost smell the rain on the cobblestone.
You can hear the click of heels, the hiss of gas lamps flickering on. There are people walking around in waistcoats, long flowing skirts, holding parasols. It feels like a painting.
It feels alive.
But then you look up.
And that is where the dream creates this friction with a nightmare, because looming over this beautiful, nostalgic city is something that just shouldn't be there.
Right.
A massive, surreal stone monolith that casts a shadow that touches absolutely everything.
And the people. They aren't just looking at it with curiosity. They're looking at it with absolute terror.
Yeah, because they know the rules of this world. They know that once a year, a mysterious entity known only as the Paintress wakes up.
She's this ethereal, almost terrifying figure.
Completely. She walks to that stone, she lifts a massive brush, and she paints a single number on it.
And this is the premise of Clair Obscur, Expedition 33, which came out back in April of 2025.
It is, without a doubt, one of the most haunting hooks I have ever seen in a video game. Yeah. Because the moment that brushstroke finishes, the second the paint hits the stone, a magical event triggers.
They call it the gommage.
The gommage.
It sounds so artistic, so gentle. You know, like an exfoliation or an erasing technique you'd use in a sketchbook.
Which is exactly what it is. It literally means erasure. But in the context of this world, it is horrifying.
How so?
Because everyone in the city whose age matches that painted number just vanishes instantly.
Come on.
They dissolve into smoke. There are no bodies to bury. There are no goodbyes. One second you're talking to your father or your sister, and the next second there's just a pile of empty clothes settling onto the cobblestones.
And the terrifying part, the mechanic that drives the anxiety of this entire world, is that the number counts down.
Exactly. It is a countdown. It started years ago with the elderly, wiped out the grandparents, then the parents.
So it's creeping closer.
Every single year, the Paintress wakes up and the number gets lower. It's cutting down people in their prime now. It's closing in on the youth.
It's a slow-motion apocalypse that you can track on a calendar.
Precisely. And in the game's present day, the number on the monolith is about to be 33.
Which gives us the title, Expedition 33.
Exactly right. The premise is that for years, the people of this world, a place called Lumiere, have been trying to stop this. Every year, a group of volunteers called the Expeditioners prepares.
They gather their weapons, they say their goodbyes.
And they leave the safety of the city. They have to cross this ruined continent to try and find the Paintress. Their goal is simple: kill her, break the brush, stop the cycle.
But the track record isn't exactly great, is it?
It's non-existent.
Yeah.
Expedition 1 through 32 were total failures. Everyone died. We never heard from them again.
So when we pick up the controller, we're playing as Expedition 33. The latest and, well, statistically speaking, likely the final hope for humanity before the number gets too low to sustain a population.
It creates this incredible Suicide Squad energy right out of the gate. You know the odds, you know the history.
But here's the thing. Looking at the reviews, looking at the fact that this game absolutely swept the Game of the Year awards in 2025, it's so clear that players aren't just responding to a cool fantasy setup.
No, not at all. If it were just Fight the Magic Wish, it would be fun, but it wouldn't be this cultural phenomenon.
We've been digging through a massive stack of notes, articles, developer diaries, and psychological analyses on this game.
Yeah.
And what we found is that Clair Obscur is doing something much, much heavier than just letting you fight monsters with cool swords.
It's essentially a Trojan horse. On the outside, it's a stunning Unreal Engine 5 RPG with flashy combat and beautiful costumes. But inside,
it's a profound and frankly quite difficult meditation on family trauma, grief, and the very specific way human beings use escapism to survive pain.
That's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to look past the RPG mechanics. We want to open up the hood and look at the emotional engine driving this whole thing.
Right. Because according to the sources we have, this game is essentially a case study on the painted worlds we create in our own heads.
And the central question it asks is, do those painted worlds save us or do they destroy us?
So let's start by grounding ourselves in the world of the game before we get too philosophical. We're in Lumiere. It's isolated from the rest of the world by a cataclysm called the Fracture.
Right.
And we are controlling this group of people, the Expeditioners. Who were they? Because the notes emphasize that they aren't just generic heroes. They're not your typical chosen ones.
They really aren't. In most RPGs, you have the strong guy, the fast girl, the healer. And Expedition 33 has those archetypes, sure, but they're filtered through this heavy lens of generational trauma.
They're all essentially people waiting to die.
That's it, exactly. They're living on borrowed time, and they know it.
Let's run through the roster because their personalities really inform the themes here.
Okay, so first, you have Gustav. He's effectively the team dad. He's an engineer.
An engineer.
Now, think about that role in a world defined by magical erasure. In a world where logic has failed, where people vanish into smoke, Gustav is the guy trying to build machines.
He's trying to impose logic on chaos.
Exactly. He represents that desperate need for tangible solutions. He wants to fix things with a wrench because he can't fix the magic. He's the anchor. He keeps the team grounded when things get too surreal.
And then you have Mal.
Manel is the heart of the game. She's the youngest, a fencer, she's spirited, maybe a bit naive at the start, but she represents the search for connection.
So she's the emotional core.
Completely. While Gustav is trying to save the world structurally, Manel is trying to find a family. Her narrative arc is absolutely crucial to the ending, which we will get to later. She's the one who asks, is it worth saving the world if we don't have each other?
And then we get into the more esoteric characters. We have Loon, a mage who uses stains. I love that the magic system is painting themed.
Brilliant touch.
And Seal, a warrior with a scythe who uses card mechanics. But the one that really stood out to me in the notes, the one the critics couldn't stop talking about, was Verso.
Verso.
Yeah.
He's a fascinating character study. He's the stranger. He joins the group later. He's a disciplined fighter, very stoic, very mysterious.
No.
But what's brilliant is how his gameplay mechanic reinforces his personality.
Also, what does he do?
His mechanic is based on exacting performance. The more perfectly you time your button presses, the rhythm, the parries, the more damage he does. He gets stronger, the better you perform.
So the game mechanically rewards perfectionism.
Exactly. And narratively, that links to the idea of perfectionism as a survival mechanism. The logic is, if I just do everything perfectly, if I never make a mistake, then maybe I can control the uncontrollable. Maybe I won't get hurt.
Wow.
It's a trauma response turned into a game mechanic.
That hits a little close to home.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have that Verso voice in our heads.
It definitely resonates. And then you have the support cast, Monoko, the shapeshifter, and later on Esquai, this mythical helper creature who lets you swim and fly.
Right, the traversal mechanics.
But what I want to highlight before we move to the story is that the gameplay itself, the actual act of holding the controller, forces you into a specific mindset. The reviews call it reactive turn-based.
Which means what exactly? Because usually turn-based means I can put the controller down, take a sip of coffee, and check my text while my character casts a spell.
Right, that is the traditional model. It's passive. You select attack, and then you check out. Expedition 33 explicitly prevents you from doing that.
So it's active.
Very.
Yeah.
It integrates real-time mechanics. When an enemy attacks you, you have to parry or dodge in real time. There's a break system where you have to hit weak points at specific moments.
You can't look away.
If you look away from the screen for 3 seconds during a battle, you will die. It demands absolute presence.
Okay, so why does that matter for the story? What's the connection?
Because the story is about the danger of checking out. It's about the danger of living on autopilot or retreating into a fantasy where nothing can hurt you. The game demands your attention and your rhythm.
It forces you to stay present in the conflict.
Which mirrors the psychological journey the characters need to take. You cannot autopilot your survival in this game, just like you can't autopilot your grief.
That is such a clever way to marry the mechanics to the message. It primes your brain to pay attention. But okay, let's peel back the layer.
Let's do it.
We've got the setup, we've got the characters, but the sources we have go much deeper. They talk about the core truth of the game.
This is where the spoilers start, but more importantly, this is where the metaphor reveals itself.
The notes say that if you strip away the paintress, the gomage, the magic, this isn't a fantasy story at all.
No, it's a domestic tragedy.
Break that down for us, because that is a huge leap from Magic Witch on a monolith.
The source material reveals that the entire world of Lumiere, the entire conflict, is a metaphor for a family shattered by a house fire.
A real-world fire, not a magical one.
Yes. In the reality, beneath the game's metaphor, there was a fire. A mother and father lost their son in that fire.
Oh, wow.
And in the aftermath, the parents and the remaining daughters are trying to cope. But they are failing terribly.
So let's map the fantasy onto the reality. Who is the paintress?
The paintress represents the mother.
The villain is the mother.
Well, see, that is the nuance the game plays with. She's the antagonist, absolutely, but calling her a villain might be too simple. She's a mother overwhelmed by grief.
Okay.
The loss of her son was chaos, unpredictable, fiery, destructive. So what does she do? She creates a world Lumiere where she can impose order.
She becomes the dictator of her own reality.
Exactly. And think about the gamage, the countdown. Why would a mother create a system that kills people by age?
That's what I was wondering. It seems so cruel. Why would a grieving mother invent a system of death?
It isn't cruelty, it's ritual. The sources call it grief ritualized. Grief in the real world feels chaotic. It hits you out of nowhere. You're fine 1 minute, and the next minute you're on the floor sobbing.
Right. It's unpredictable.
But in Lumiere, death runs on a schedule. It happens when the number is painted. It happens to specific people at specific times.
So she is trying to regulate the pain, to control it.
She's trying to manage the loss. If time is strictly controlled, if death only happens when she says it happens, then she feels safe. She's trying to freeze the world in a state of controlled decay so that nothing unexpected can ever hurt her again.
The logic is, if I control the death can't surprise me.
That's her core motivation. She is painting over the chaos with numbers.
That's heartbreaking. Its control is a trauma response.
Precisely.
So if the paintress is the mother trying to freeze time, who is the father in this metaphor?
The father is represented by the forces opposing her. He represents the resistance. He's the part of the family dynamic that realizes we can't live like this. Living inside a fantasy, frozen in time, isn't living.
He wants to move on.
He wants to break the cycle. To the mother, that looks like an attack. It looks like he's trying to destroy her sanctuary.
But he's really trying to save them.
He's trying to drag them back to reality.
Yeah.
He represents the painful necessity of moving forward, even when it hurts.
And the expeditioners, the characters we play as, Gustav, Malel.
They represent the daughters. They're the children trapped in the middle of this war between the parents.
Oh, okay.
They're trying to win versions of their parents that don't exist anymore. They're caught between preservation, the mother and collapse, or movement, the father.
The notes we have call this the sanctuary turned battleground.
That is a key concept. Lumiere wasn't always a nightmare. It was originally meant to be a safe place, a shared fantasy to escape the pain of the fire.
Like, let's pretend we're in a beautiful city where the fire never happened.
Exactly that. But the problem is, you cannot share a fantasy perfectly.
Why not?
Because everyone grieves differently. When multiple people grieve differently inside the same constructed reality, it fractures. The fantasy cracks. The shared dream becomes a contested territory.
So the monsters they fight, the Nevrons, what are they supposed to be?
They're the friction. They're the ugly grotesqueries that manifest when you try to force your version of reality onto someone else. They're the arguments, the misunderstandings, the distorted memories.
So they're the trauma made manifest.
They are the result of the sanctuary rotting from the inside.
It really changes how you view the combat. You aren't just killing generic beasts for XP and loot.
Not at all. You're fighting through the mess of a broken family dynamic.
Yeah.
You're fighting for the right to define what is real.
Now, there's one specific aspect of this painted world idea that the sources highlight as being incredibly relevant to us right now in the real world. We're stepping away from the fire metaphor for a second and looking at what the notes call the modern trap. And that brings us to the story of Alicia.
Ah, yes. The Alicia parable. This is where the game stops being just a story about a specific family and starts pointing a finger directly at the player.
Who is Alicia? She's not one of the main expeditioners, right?
No, she's an NPC you meet. Alicia is a character who wasn't originally from Lumiere. She entered the painted world. Essentially, she entered the game or the simulation, and she just stayed.
For how long?
15 years.
Wow. She checked out of reality for 15 years.
She found the painted world preferable to her real life. Inside the fiction, she built a new identity, she found a community, she essentially built a new family inside the simulation, and she was happy.
And the game asks us to judge her for that.
Actually, it does something more interesting. It asks, is she wrong? If she is happy and her experiences feel real to her, why is that less valid than the real world, which might be full of pain or boredom or trauma for her?
It's the Matrix steak argument. You know, if the steak tastes good, does it matter that it's just code?
But the game updates that argument for the 2020s. Think about how we live now. Think about the infinite scroll.
Yeah, doom scrolling. We all do it. It's so easy to lose hours.
Think about parasocial relationships. People spend hours every day watching streamers, feeling like they know them, feeling a genuine emotional connection to people who don't know they exist.
We carry these portals to other worlds in our pockets.
Exactly. Historically, art was a destination. You went to a gallery, you looked at a painting, you felt something, and then you left. You went to the theater, watched a play, the curtain fell, and you went home to dinner.
There was a boundary. There was a frame around the art.
Yes, but now...
Now, technology invites us to live inside the art, or inside the content. The boundary is gone. We can spend more waking hours in the digital world than the physical one. We build identities there, we find validation there.
It's a fundamental shift in our relationship with fiction.
The notes make a really chilling comparison here between the paintress and the algorithm.
It is chilling, but it fits perfectly. Think about it. The paintress uses numbers to control time and people. She decides when things end. What does the algorithm do?
It feeds you the next video. It autoplays the next episode. It curates a feed to keep you engaged.
It manages your time for you. It gives you the illusion of agency. I'm choosing to watch this, but really it's racing time.
You sit down at 9 p.m., you blink, and it's 1 a.m. Those 4 hours.
They got gommaged. They vanished into smoke.
That is a terrifying way to put it. We are voluntarily stepping into the gommage every night.
The core danger the game identifies isn't that imagination or digital worlds are bad. It isn't an anti-tech diatribe. The danger is forgetting which world is doing the carrying.
Which world is doing the carrying? Unpack that for me. What does that mean?
It means that the digital world, or the painted world, relies on the physical world to exist. You need a body to hold the phone. You need a job to pay for the electricity and the internet. You need real relationships to sustain your mental health.
The foundation.
Yes. If you neglect the foundation, the physical reality, the painted world collapses.
Alicia forgot that.
She did. She tried to make the painted world the foundation, and that's a trap. Because eventually the battery dies, eventually the server shuts down, eventually reality comes knocking.
This leads us directly into the emotional trap the game sets for the player regarding the characters themselves, the painted people.
This is what the notes call the ontological crisis of the game.
Ontology. That's a fancy word.
It just means the study of being, of what is real. And the game makes it very clear through lore documents and certain dialogue that Gustav Lune Haiwilo, they are painted people.
So they're not real, even within the story's real world.
Correct. They are made of ink and chroma. Within the logic of the story, they do not have souls. They are fictions inside a fiction. They are constructs of the mother's grief.
But as you play, you fall in love with them.
You do. The writing is brilliant. They have banter, they have fears, they have crushes. You spend 40, 50 hours with them. You fight alongside them. You rely on them.
And the fact that they're dying, the countdown, makes you care more, not less.
That is the key. Mortality is usually the thing that defines humanity. Because they can die, they feel human to us. If they were immortal, we might not care. But because their time is limited, every moment feels precious.
So the game weaponizes your empathy.
It absolutely does. It trains you to recognize humanity in things that aren't real.
Why does it do that? Is it just to make us sad when the game ends?
It's setting you up for the final exam. The ending of the game isn't just a boss fight. It is a choice. And because you have bonded with these fake people, the choice isn't an abstract philosophy debate.
It's personal. Deeply personal. That's the trolley problem, but the people on the tracks are your friends.
Exactly. The game asks, are you willing to let Gustav die? Are you willing to let Lune be erased? Even though, on some level, they were never truly alive to begin with.
Let's talk about that ending. Because everything builds to this. The game forces you to choose between two characters who represent two completely different philosophies. Mael and Verso.
This is the climax, the binary choice, the Clair Obscur.
Let's start with Mael. She offers what the notes call the peace ending.
Right. After everything, Mael decides to stay. She chooses to preserve the painted world of Lumiere. Effectively, she takes up the brush and becomes the new paintress.
What's her logic? Why would she do that after fighting so hard to stop the very same thing?
Her logic is, this world saved me. She feels belonging here. She found a family. She looks at the pain of the real world, the fire, the loss, the emptiness, and she says, no thanks.
So she chooses the comfort of the illusion.
She promises she'll return to reality eventually, but...
It's the eventually of an addict. Just one more hit.
Exactly. It rings hollow. The peace ending feels compassionate in the moment because nobody has to die. Gustav survives. Lune survives. The cycle continues, but it's managed by someone we love. But the sources describe this as selfish peace.
Because it freezes healing. It's stagnation.
It suspends time. It's the equivalent of saying, I'm just going to stay in bed and dream a little longer because waking up hurts too much. But if you stay in bed forever, you waste away.
And then you have verso, the truth ending.
Verso is the hardliner. He represents the absolute refusal to substitute illusion for reality. His argument is that a beautiful lie is still a lie.
He's the perfectionist to the very end.
To the end. He believes that love requires presence. You cannot love your real parents if you're spending all your energy loving painted versions of them. He says a beautiful illusion that replaces reality is still a loss.
But the cost of his path is brutal.
It is horrific. If you side with Verso, you have to destroy Lumiere. You have to watch Gustave and Lune and everyone you love dissolve into ink. You have to kill them. You have to be the one to pull the plug on the simulation.
And what happens to Verso if you don't choose him? If you side with Maël?
He's damned. He becomes the sacrifice. He is frozen in a role he didn't consent to, trapped in the machinery of the fantasy to keep it running. He becomes a permanent fixture in the lie he fought to destroy.
So the game forces you into a corner. You either burn the world down and kill your friends to face the truth, or you save the beautiful lie and lose your soul in the process.
It's a binary. Light versus dark, Clair versus Obscur. There is no middle ground.
And this is where the critique comes in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because real life isn't usually that black and white. Real life isn't usually kill everyone or live in a lie.
Right. And this brings us to the most fascinating part of our research stack. We have notes here from a source, let's call him Max, who analyzes the game through a very specific psychological lens.
Okay.
And he suggests there is a third path that the game missed, a path it couldn't offer because it's a video game and needs a dramatic ending.
Max. Who's Max in this context?
Max is a case study from the source material. He's a real person whose experiences are used to analyze the game's themes, and he brings up the concept of subpersonalities.
Subpersonalities? Like multiple personality disorder? Is that what we're talking about?
No, and that's a really important distinction. Not a disorder. It's a model of the mind, often used in therapy, like internal family systems. The idea is that we all contain multitudes.
Yeah.
You aren't just one solid block of self. You have a work self, a parent self, a scared child self, a creative self. Max notes that he has distinct identities. He names Addie, Bannock, Devon.
And he has internal worlds for them, like Lumiere.
Yes. He describes places like Manaheim and Azima. These are rich, detailed internal landscapes where he goes to think, to process emotion, to have conversations with these parts of himself.
So in the metaphor of the game, Max is a painter.
He is. He has created a world. And he poses this hypothetical fear. Does having a rich internal world like that mean you are delusional? Does it mean you are the paintress and you need to be stopped?
The game seems to say yes. It says, destroy the painting to be healthy. Choose Verso's path.
The game relies on what Max calls the safety mask argument. You know, on an airplane, they say, secure your own mask before helping others. The game implies that to secure your reality, you must eliminate the fantasy. You have to clear the board, put your own mask on first.
But Max disagrees.
He argues for a third path, he says. What if the inner world is the mask? What if, as long as you are functioning in the real world, holding down a job, loving your family, taking showers, the inner world is a tool, not a cage.
So it's about integration rather than destruction.
Exactly. He calls it the mosaic narrative.
I like that image. A mosaic, lots of different pieces making one picture.
Think about the difference between a video game character and a part of your psyche. A game character needs an arc. They need an ending. They need to die or win because the game has to roll credits.
Right, it's a story. Stories have to end.
But parts of our own minds, they don't end. They evolve.
You don't defeat your anxiety like a boss fight. You learn to live with it. You manage it.
You don't kill your inner child, you integrate them. Max argues that the ideal ending, the one the game couldn't give us because it needed a dramatic tragedy, is oscillation.
Oscillation.
Yeah.
Swinging back and forth.
Yes. You visit the painted world, you recharge, you explore, you find meaning there, you let Addie or Bannock speak. And then, and this is the crucial part, you bring that insight back to the real world.
You share the canvas.
Sharing the canvas. That is beautiful, isn't it? Instead of the mother hoarding the brush and dictating reality, she lets others paint too. She lets reality and fantasy coexist.
But there have to be a catch. It can't be that simple.
There is a catch. The source material is very clear on this. There has to be a check and balance. Max calls it the veto power.
This sounds important. How does the veto work?
The external world, your real life, your real relationships, your responsibilities, gets a veto on your time and availability.
Okay, So reality gets a say.
But it does not get a veto on your meaning.
Unpack that for me. That distinction feels vital.
It means you are allowed to find deep spiritual or emotional significance in your internal world, just like some people find it in religion or football or art. That meaning is valid. Nobody can take that away from you. You can value Mannheim as much as you value Paris.
But there's a but.
But if your internal world causes you to miss your daughter's school play, if it causes you to neglect your hygiene, if you are physically unavailable to the people who need you because you're bridging too hard, then the real world gets to say, stop.
That is the veto.
That is the veto. It is the guardrail. If you respect the veto, the internal world is a bridge. It connects you to yourself.
And if you ignore it?
If you ignore the veto, it becomes a bunker. It walls you off from everyone and everything.
A bridge versus a bunker. That is the distinction.
That is everything. Clair Obscur is a tragedy because the mother built a bunker. She locked the doors. She decided what reality should look like for everyone else. She imposed her grief on the world.
She didn't share the canvas.
She didn't share the canvas, and she didn't listen when the world tried to veto her. The expeditions were the world's attempt to veto her, and she killed them.
This really reframes the whole experience. The game is a warning about extremes, about getting stuck in the bunker. But the solution isn't to burn down the bunker, it's to open the door.
Open the door, walk out, walk back in when you need to. Keep the air moving. That's mental health. It's the fluidity. The paintress failed because she wanted stagnation. She wanted the painting to dry and never change.
But life is a wet canvas. It's always moving.
Always.
Man, we started this talking about a French fantasy game with cool graphics, and we've ended up discussing the fundamental architecture of the human mind.
That's the mark of great art, isn't it? It uses a lie to tell you the truth. It uses a made-up world to show you the cracks in your own.
Absolutely. It makes you look at your own paintresses and ask what they're trying to protect you from.
And it makes you look at your own versos and ask why they're so obsessed with perfection and a singular hard reality.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Expedition 33, I want to leave the listener with a final thought from our sources. A provocation.
It's the ultimate question the game asks us, if we're willing to listen. Are you using your imagination to heal or to hide?
The game ends in tragedy. Because narratives need endings. They need a curtain call. But your life is still being written. You don't have to choose between the light and the dark. You can live in the Clair Obscur.
You can bridge the worlds. You can hold the brush and the wrench at the same time.
That is it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.